humanitarian aid still be a force for good during unprecedented times such as we are experiencing with the COVID-19 pandemic? Our guests today are from the Rotary Club. For more information, stay tuned. We will be right back. If you're just joining us, welcome to the show. I'm your host, Bridgetti Limbanda from Cape Town in South Africa. This stream is made possible by StreamYard. City centers have become like ghost towns, and many businesses are shutting their doors over the last couple of weeks because they simply can't afford to keep the lights on. How then does humanitarian aid agencies stack up at times like these when we need them the most? And we're going to find out more about that from our guests today. But first of all, hello to my co-host, Viola. It's been a while. How are you?
It has been so long. I'm very well. Thank you. Thank you so much. So much has happened, Brigitte. I mean, we were doing daily updates, but so much has been happening. And but then again, also it's been a lot that's sort of been more of the same. So I'm really excited to speak to our guests today, just to really talk about, I think, an area that's concerned all of us, and that is just how can we be of assistance? How are we helping? How effective is it? What kind of impact are we making? So I'm keen to speak to the guests today.
Oh, absolutely. So by way of introduction to our guests today, the Rotary International is the world's largest volunteer humanitarian service organization. And our guest today is, we're hoping that Victor can join us. It seems like he had a bit of internet trouble, but Victor is the past president of the Rotary Club of Century City. And then also Shelley Finch. She is the founder of a creative and digital marketing agency in Cape Town, South Africa. She says that when she's not creating magic for her clients, she serves her local community as a member of the Rotary Club of Newlands and as the district chair of Rotary's public image. So we are really hoping that Victor is going to be able to join us shortly. But let's welcome the Rotary Club to our show, shall we?
Yes, please.
Wonderful. Hi, Victor and Shelley. A big, big welcome to the show. So pleased to have you as our guest today.
Thank you for having us. Nice to be here. Where here is my lounge.
Yeah, as well as summertime. Yeah, I said everybody's getting so completely taken over by this. Sanitize your hands, wear your mask. So we see you wearing your mask, and I've just got sanitizer all over my home. So yeah, I think we're all quite safe.
Yes, exactly, definitely.
Oh my goodness, we're gonna jump right in, I think, to the conversation, because there's a lot we want to know about the Rotary Club, and so I'm not sure who's going to take this question, either Shelley or Victor. I'm wishing I had a yellow card or a red card here to say to you, this one's for you. Let's have some fun with it. So the first question is, what are the key functions of the Rotary Club, and where do you make the most impact to the communities?
I think because it's Women's Month and it's all about us this month, I'm going to let Victor answer that question first. I'm going to throw him right in the deep end.
There we go. Victor, we're not
Have we
getting
got you there, Victor?
But absolutely, you guys are breaking up on me totally. So I don't know if it's my side or if it's a general thing.
We can hear you, so go ahead.
Right. Well, while he's catching up, I'll dive in. So basically, Rotary traditionally has 6 core focus areas. Recently, at the beginning of, or should I say mid-July, for the first time in history since Rotary was founded, we actually added a 7th area of focus. So traditionally, Rotary's areas of focus are mother and child maternal health, water and sanitation, local economic activity, which includes entrepreneurship. Our new 7th one is the environment, literacy, and I'm missing one. I'm going to have to think of the other one. I always do that when they tell me to list all of them. But we have very particular areas of focus, and all of our projects in Rotary fall into those areas of focus. And so the one we felt was missing for a really, really long time was the environment, which has become so important in the past few decades. And so we're excited that that's been added as a 7th area of focus.
Okay, that's great. And in terms of those areas of focus, Shelley, where do you feel that you're currently making the most impact?
Sure. So certainly in the last couple of months, it's been around food security, which isn't sort of nutritional food security isn't a particular focus area. It obviously falls into things like child and maternal health, making sure that people are well and have what they need. And so that's been really the core, the focus for us, all of our clubs in the past couple of months since the start of March. Many of our clubs have worked on some small projects for PPE and that sort of thing, but really all of the clubs have been focused on food security. All of our clubs have small non-profit partners. So basically what Rotary generally does is we partner with other organizations. So we're not an organization that goes into a town or a situation and says, okay, we know what you guys need. That's not how we work. We go into local communities and say, what do you think? How can we help you? What is an urgent need of yours? What is a challenge? Can Rotary help you change that situation? And so through working that way, all of our clubs have a host of non-profit partners that we work with. And so when lockdown happened, immediately those partners knew they could reach out to us and say, right, we really need you. And our clubs in the past 4 months, it feels like 4 years. So that's why I keep pausing. Is it 4 months? Our clubs have raised, or should I say, sorry, our clubs have spent over 10 million Rand on COVID projects.
Wow.
Vast majority in providing food for communities in need.
Okay. Well, that's
Phenomenal.
That's interesting. I think lots of people are just doing such great work, and so it's amazing. I love the approach, the idea of actually working with existing partners who know more about that community and know more of the nuances of that community. Makes a lot of sense. My question, of course, is: have you noticed or experienced any shifts in people's attitudes towards goodwill and humanitarianism during this period of COVID?
Definitely. I think it's shifted a lot in even the 4 months that we've been going through. So initially, when lockdown happened, I personally saw a massive outpouring of goodwill from South Africans. And from South Africans abroad, expats living abroad who were messaging us here saying, we know this is going to be a bad situation. How can we help? What can we do? And people were incredibly generous, even in that uncertainty. So that was really amazing and inspiring, and really proves what we've always known about South Africans. When we're in crisis, you knew what I was going to say, didn't you?
Yes.
I wasn't going to say it. I was like, don't use that idiom. No, I won't. Don't worry. It's a family show. We come together in crisis. We know we're good at doing that. And so that most definitely happened. That 10 million rand we raised, a lot. I know certainly my own club, Newlands, we raised over 1 million rand through crowdfunding and just making personal contacts. I know 2 of our other clubs that did the same. In the past few weeks, that enthusiasm has waned somewhat. And I think that is to do with what we call donor fatigue. People start saying, look, I feel like I've given enough. Like I can't carry on giving forever, which is totally understandable. And I think for a lot of businesses and people, they're actually only starting to feel the effects of the impact on business and their jobs and their livelihoods now. So they're really tightening their belts now. And also, I think there might be a feeling that people think, oh, now that the economy is more open, that people can go back to work and that we're not in such a crisis state. But the reality is that we still are. Certainly in low-income communities, food security is still a massive, massive issue. And it will be for next few months. So our challenge is keeping that attitude or that enthusiasm to give and to help alive for a good another 6 months still while we need it. Yeah.
I want to pose the next question to Victor, but before I do, can you briefly tell us, what changes have you made to fundraising initiatives, if any, at this time? Because, money is tight and as you said, there's donor fatigue. So how have you pivoted in terms of your approach to fundraising?
Is that one for Victor?
No, that one's for you. The next one's for Victor.
All right. Okay. I was going to say he's the money guy.
Easy. Should you take that one? Okay, Victor, go.
So wonderfully, we've so there's an interesting thing about Rotary that we often joke about is everyone thinks Rotary is for old people. So that's a good place to start our conversation about how COVID has changed the way we fundraise, because we can't have meetings. All our Rotary meetings have shifted online to Zoom. So all our clubs are meeting on Zoom. Our older Rotarians who've been technophobes have been thrust into the deep end, and they have swam, let me tell you. There's some of our old Rotarians over 70 doing backstroke in the technology pool at the moment. So I'm just so impressed by how they've embraced this technology. But what it's meant is that we're also having to look at online fundraising. And what everyone's gotten very, very excited about is crowdfunding. So traditionally, Rotary, our district is the Western Cape, all the way up to Plettenberg Bay, Northern Cape, Namibia, and Angola. And traditionally, our clubs get a lot of their funding money from working sports events. So, for instance, Claremont Rotary owns, along with Pedal Power, the Cape Town Cycle Tour. Rotarians that you see as marshals working at the Cape Town Marathon and all those cycle tours, that's the way we earn money for our projects. And now, because those events thankfully we got in the Cape Town cycle tour this year. But for instance, the Cape Town Marathon's not happening. And so we need to find ways to replace those income generating projects. And so we've shifted a lot to crowdfunding, which has proven successful for quite a few of our clubs already. And on the 29th of August, Back a Buddy, one of South Africa's premier crowdfunding platforms, are actually helping us present an educational webinar for our clubs on how to put a crowdfunding campaign together, what they need to do. And so that looks like what we're going to be focusing on the months ahead. Yeah.
I think that's phenomenal, because Back a Buddy is an avenue that a lot of people are using, but a lot of people don't know how it works or how to use it most effectively. So I think that'll be fantastic. So Victor, can you tell us a little bit about what operational changes you've needed to make during COVID-19?
Certainly I can do that. So firstly, let me apologize. For some reason I dropped right at the start, but hello to your viewers, and great to be here, and thank you to invite us into your lounge and to share some ideas with you. I think as Shelley said, there's, from an operational side, there's been a number of changes, but a lot of what I will say now encompasses some of the stuff she's spoken about. So, she spoke about partnerships, and we've been very keen on partnerships for a number of years, going into communities, understanding actually what they need and what they want. So it's more about, a hand up rather than a hand out. And I think that has been, a great part of what Rotary's developed and grown. But I think what COVID has also taught us is that Shelley's talking about crowdfunding and these areas, and those absolutely essential. There's absolutely no doubt. But it also comes back to how people's mindsets have shifted during this time. And we find I'm part of the Rotary Club Century City, we finding that there's a whole wave of enthusiasm for doing things in the community, but those things have to be reciprocal. So whether it's in partnerships or reciprocal of nature, that's important. So for example, in our particular club, I assume I can mention corporate names on the program. Shake your head if I'm not allowed to, but in our particular instance, we've teamed up with the local Pam Golding office of this whole area, and they have created collection points for food parcels and clothing parcels, etc. We very recently had in Dunoon some major floods, and they came on board with a local legal office, Milton's. And we find that is part of the partnership, not only about what we're doing in the community, because we have the context in the community, but how do we actually get stuff in to actually meet the needs of that particular community. So that has been a great thing. I think one of the other things that we've done is we've also realized during this time, and everybody's talking about restaurants and me with my wine here and various other things, we found that by talking to local businesses, we're starting to find ways of supplementing our income. So Shelley spoke about the normal things we do, like marshalling at the events, etc. But we've now gone to, for example, a local operation, Cattle Baron, and we've said to them, I tell you what, we will promote your particular business in street groups. So wherever our Rotarians live, we go to the street group, and we say on a Friday night, here's a burger special only for our street, as an example. And what the Cattle Baron do in return for a discounted rate on their burgers, they also then partner with us and actually donate a certain percentage of that. And I think that's a lot more of actually starting to work within the community. So I think COVID has brought us into really different spaces in terms of thinking. One of our clubs is very strong in Atlantis, and they're doing some amazing work out there. But they've partnered, as an example, with the local radio station to give classes to matrics during this period. So I think the nature of Rotary through COVID has been resurrected in a sense, because we're now starting to think slightly differently. We're starting to think, how do we change what we've been doing all these years and change it into something different? Yes, we will face the challenges that businesses and everybody else is facing, the new ways of work, or the new norm, as everybody calls it. But certainly it's changed our thought process. So I trust that answers the question.
I think that's amazing because, in our mind, in the discussion we've had with guests on the show, we've all sort of been talking to businesses and talking to them about how they've pivoted and how they started to look at things differently. But to hear that Rotary is doing exactly the same thing, I think it's actually becoming essential that everybody starts to revisit the way they're doing things, and everybody starts to really just say. And the one thing I'm finding is everybody's talking about partnerships and collaboration. That's the one theme that seems to be coming through, especially for organizations that represent, a group or a collective. It's always about the collaboration, and I think the collaboration allows you to sort of understand what each one's doing, so that nobody's actually tripping over each other trying to do the same thing. And I think that's become essential, and I agree with you, Shelley. South Africans are great at doing what they do. We do it and we do it well. South Africans are generous and caring people. Mm-hmm. Do you have any feel-good stories about stuff that you guys have gotten involved in over this COVID period that just sticks with you? Is there any sort of feel-good story?
I think one personal one that I've had, which, I mean, so many. I promise you, if you ask Rotarians about the people they've met and the kindness they've seen, from businesses and people left, right, and center, it's been amazing. But I, quite early in the start of lockdown, I can't remember how exactly, but I got a message from a gentleman who was an Uber Eats driver, very, explaining that his family was in dire straits. The reality is they hadn't eaten in a few days, the situation that many families found themselves in. And he was reaching out to say, was there any way we could help? And so a friend of mine and I went off to where he lived, and we met him and, had a great chat. It's himself, his wife, his son, and a new baby. And so we met them and we dropped off a food parcel and said, if you need anything from us, please, get in touch. And we checked in a little and they were doing fine. And one day I live in Sea Point and I actually ordered checkers in 60, which I'm not sure, as you know, you order your groceries online and one of the guys delivers on a motorcycle. And so I went downstairs to get my groceries. And Solomon was there. He was wearing his motorcycle helmet and he said, "Shelley, it's me." And I was like, who is that? And it was this gentleman we'd helped out with a food parcel. And he'd actually, a couple of weeks after we'd gone to help him, had actually found some work with Checkers in 60 as a driver. And he was so excited to bump into me so randomly and say, thank you so much. And his family are now okay for the time being. And so he actually works at my local Checkers. So we see each other quite often. And for me, that really has been so rewarding to just, connect with a fellow human being. And he was, his family are from the Congo. And one of the things, they said when we went to meet them was, they felt a little bit isolated in, they didn't really have a large family here or a large community. They didn't know who to reach out to for help. And so we went to spend some time with them and they made them feel that they weren't alone, that, there are people and South Africans out there who are willing to help, who are, and so that was really being able to reach out to people, not just with physical help, but saying you're not alone. If you need anything, we're okay and we're there to help you.
Yeah. I think one of the things that I've learned about charity, about goodwill and humanitarianism is that there's a lot of people who write the checks and then there's a lot of people who get their hands dirty. And the people who get their hands dirty are the ones that continue to do the work. It's just, you actually find that you get more out of it than, just emotionally and just psychologically get more out of it, just in terms of giving. And so I know it sounds like a bit of a cliche that, as you give, you get, but it's so true. I think the more and more you involve, the more and more you experience that.
Absolutely. And I think it's, that volunteer experience has, certainly for our Rotarians, and I hear them say it often, is, when things that other people were complaining about, that, oh, we didn't have this and we didn't have that, and why can't we do this and why can't we do that? A lot of our volunteers were like, they didn't find those things difficult to deal with, because they have the context that other families have had such, I almost said more bigger challenges to face. And so when you have that as a context, you really begin to feel grateful for the stuff that you have, the simple stuff. A warm bed to sleep in, a fridge full of food, a home to go to every night. And so I think when you say it in that sense, it's incredibly rewarding as a volunteer to be able to see that out in the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Wow, a lot of the things that you've shared is really heartwarming and, wonderful news to hear. But are there any things that COVID-19 has made a little bit more challenging for you? What are the things that, as a Rotary Club, you are struggling with, and how can business or people out there assist you, if at all?
Perhaps I'll take that one, Shelley.
Go ahead.
I think. So the first thing is Rotary is about, one of our mottos is service above self, and certainly we don't necessarily look to go out and get handouts from companies or people. Really, what we're looking for is people who resonate with the beliefs that we have, ethical standards, service above self, and trying to do good in the community. So that's the first thing. And I think people, especially during this COVID times, I think there's a lot of people who are searching to belong to something that is greater than them, because I think we all feel this need, and we all understand, as Viola said just now, that it's actually more rewarding for you as a person. We talk about it being our Rotary moments, these experiences we have, but it's more rewarding for you as a person to be given than to be receiving. So I think there's a lot of people out there who've never really joined a group because time doesn't allow it, or the kids, or I've just got too much to take care of every night, I've got to cook, etc., etc. I think this is a great time to rethink as an individual, what can I do in the broader community? And again, there's Rotary clubs scattered all over the peninsula and all over the country, but different clubs focus on different things. And then from a corporate perspective, I think, once again, it depends on what that corporate resonates with. So, for example, and I won't use names in this particular example, but there are companies perhaps that see IT as part of where they want to spend their corporate social investment. I think one of the things that Rotary has is a reputation for being honest, ethical, non-corrupt. I'm not aware of any corruption cases in Rotary at all in South Africa ever. So I think a lot of corporates are finding comfort in supporting Rotary clubs, and there's a number of them that are doing that through different clubs. So from a personal perspective, I think people can offer a lot. I always say though that actually Rotary gives you more than you actually give to Rotary. People don't join when they join for that. They think, well, I'm doing to do something in the community. But you will find that it's rewarding and gives you more. And Viola, I'm sending you an application form tomorrow. But from a corporate perspective too, I think there's governance in place, proper procedures, and generally across the Rotary world, you've got everything from, I don't want to be derogatory to anybody, but from the lowest paid to the highest paid employee in the country. And that gives you a sense of comfort as well, that your money is going to be respected and looked after and put into the right places. And there will be reports and there will be financials, etc. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And we
have
have
an important aspect.
Go ahead, Shelley.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to jump in there. Sorry to interrupt you, Brigitte. Was what a new thing that we've started to sort of explore a bit more in Rotary, certainly in the past year, are corporate memberships. So as Victor says, for a lot of people, especially if you've got a young family, often many of our clubs meet in the evening, so they say, oh well, it's bath time and bedtime, and I can't join Rotary. But what we have is these corporate memberships. So a business can become a member of a local Rotary club, and then the person who goes to the meeting to represent that business can be anybody, any one of the team or the employees. So it's not such a massive commitment personally. But we find that businesses enjoy that because obviously that gives them connections to the local community. Most often, all of the members of a Rotary Club live in that area, do business in that area, and so it's a nice connection there. And also, a lot of businesses come to Rotary, businesses that don't have CSI divisions, and they'll come to us and say, look, we have an area of focus, like one of our corporate partners for my club is the Home Choice Foundation. And so our Newlands Rotary Club is currently working on a multi-million rand project to upgrade 45 ECDs in Langa. Wow. And so when Home Choice heard about that project, they came to us and said, great, we'll put the funding in, or some of the funding in, because we know Rotary, we know your reputation for good governance, for transparency. You run the project, we'll fund it or co-fund it, and you keep reporting back to us. So that's one of the great things about these Rotary corporate partnerships is if you're a corporate and you want to know that your money is being spent in the right place, in the right way. Obviously, all Rotarians are volunteers. We're a great organization to partner with in that sense.
Shelley, are you guys working with Professor Eric Atmore on that ECD project? Because we had it on our show.
The name sounds so familiar. I don't work on that particular project myself, but I've heard the name before, and I'd actually check in with Geraldine, who heads up that project.
Okay.
But I've heard that name before.
We're busy making connections that are
nice. Perfect. See, Victor, she's a born Rotarian. Networks, connections.
Yeah. So I know that we're way over time. And it was fantastic chatting to you all. Thank you so much for sharing. It's been amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Great. And for the opportunity. It's been fantastic, and thank you.
A big pleasure.
We're so glad we could make it. And Brigitte, thanks for being patient with us as we navigated all our load shedding and electricity and work timetables. So I'm really glad we managed to pull it together, and it was a great time. Thank you.
That was really wonderful having you on the show. And I think, it's shed a lot of insight into what you do for our viewers, not just locally, but also globally. And so to our audience on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Periscope, and on Twitter, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for watching. Remember to lift as we rise and inspire each other one conversation at a time. And if you'd like to join the CuppaChino Club, you can connect with us on Facebook. So that's facebook.com/CuppaChino Club. And you can also connect with us on LinkedIn, and we go live every Wednesday at 7 p.m. GMT +2. So thank you for joining us, everyone. Have a great evening further and stay safe. Take care.
Bye.